Hello and welcome back to Oaf Culture. I'm your host, the lovable Oaf himself, and today we have a new channel milestone in that this is going to be our very first Rant video. Today I finally sat down and watched Sony's latest Spider-Man spin-off, Morbius. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, and everyone already knows it by now since at the time of recording, the movie has been out for almost 2 months. This movie is kinda dumb, and really feels like Sony reminding us that they're morons because after the masterpiece that is Spider-Man No Way Home, maybe we forgot that Sony has no interest in doing this well on their own, and I think this has been clear since about 2014. So, Morbius. First thing I'll say about it is it was better than I expected, but still pretty bad. I'd say it's certainly watchable until the last half hour or so, but throughout the movie you can find quite a bit to cringe, laugh, or make a puzzling look at, I guess. So I'm just going to go through my thoughts on this in no particular order, and I'll see you on the other side. First, I'll say about the actors in this movie. So the two main leads here are Jared Leto and Matt Smith. Jared Leto being, if you're me, then you think of him as the Joker from Suicide Squad 2016 and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Jared Leto continues to be pretty forgettable to watch in this movie. I'm not sure why he keeps getting roles, to be honest. It seems like he just is famous and is in movies and then somehow gets to keep doing that, and it just feeds into itself over and over. My theory is that he won that Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club because anybody playing that character would have stood out quite a bit. It was kind of breaking new ground to a degree, and it was just an attention-getting role, I think. I also think Anthony Hopkins, now hear me out here, this might get a little bit hot-takey, but I think Anthony Hopkins won for Hannibal Lecter. He won Best Actor in Silence of the Lambs, because it's easy to stand out as that kind of character. Okay, someone may win for Norman Bates whenever they decide to remake Psycho again. Kathy Bates won for her character in Misery. Now, she and Hopkins are definitely better actors than Jared Leto, and they're definitely good in those roles, but I just think getting an Oscar as an actor clearly doesn't necessarily mean that you're brilliant. Examples of people who are brilliant. Robin Williams, probably brilliant in everything. If you watch a thing that has Robin Williams in it, you're going to be pleased by his performance, I promise. Rather recently, of note, Robert Pattinson is brilliant in The Batman. He's also really memorable, if not brilliant, in The Devil All the Time, the Netflix original movie with Tom Holland, where he was a country evil pastor. He's not likable in that film, but he is memorable, and he does really stand out and play just a wild character. He's kind of been showing his range rather recently over the past decade or so, for sure. I think Daniel Craig is really something in No Time to Die, towards the end in particular. We've been with him as James Bond for 5 movies at this point. And at the end, when he kind of realizes how things are, you can just really read that within him, and you know exactly what he's thinking and feeling, and some of that is your own projection, but he does a great job of showing that as well. He also, of course, is a standout in Knives Out, also in Logan Lucky. Daniel Craig is somebody who has range. He hasn't, I think, gotten to show it to us very much in notable things that people are going to notice that he's in until rather recently, and I'm hoping going forward he will continue to show us his dynamic range as an actor. Andrew Garfield is truly, absolutely amazing.
You're amazing.
In Hacksaw Ridge, the greatest war film ever made. Of course, he also showed us that he is brilliant and lovable and stupendous and totally memorable in No Way Home. Jared Leto in this movie Morbius is just really whatever in this movie. I think Matt Smith, out of all the actors in Morbius, probably does the most with what he's given, but just in general, with the quality of writing that we see on display in Morbius, I don't think anybody was given that much by the writer or director or anything. So can't blame anybody for not having much to work with. Matt Smith generally is just playing kind of an evil doctor, which is fine. That's that's certainly how I would expect him to interpret this role of somebody who has been bullied and then is suddenly really powerful and is a little bit eccentric, probably because of how he's grown up, kind of being an outsider. Yeah, Matt Smith does the most. You would think Jared Leto would be really memorable, but he just kind of feels like he's phoning it in. Like he's a pretty generic character. He's the action movie protagonist who's kind of funny, and they show us enough that Michael Morbius at the beginning, in his childhood, is this kind of tragic guy, but he gets through everything with a sense of humor. And so that's fine. But other than that, it's really just, you've seen this a billion times elsewhere and done much better by probably by Dwayne Johnson, etc. But yeah, he's just really whatever. He didn't do really a great job as the Joker in Suicide Squad. I think he had a better opportunity to shine and kind of show his real interpretation of the Joker. He kind of got to be a butterfly a little bit in Zack Snyder's Justice League at the very end. But that's about it that I've seen from him that I really care about. He's also in Fight Club. Years ago, I know I saw the movie Fight Club as one of the things that he was known for as an actor on Google. And in Fight Club, he's just literally a guy. Like, he's just a random guy. I can't tell you his name. I know he's got bleach blonde hair in that movie. That's all I can tell you about him. I know he gets beat up really bad. That's it. So he's known for that, which tells me he's just like a famous guy who gets in movies and people go, hey, it's him, the famous guy. This is me from the future. Hello. While I was editing this video, I remembered that I really like the movie Mr. Nobody. That's from several years ago. Off the top of my head, I think it's from like 2009. Jared Leto is the main character of that movie. And really just because it's kind of an artsy, cool, interesting concept, cerebral movie, I kind of liked it. And he's in that. And of course, he didn't ruin it. I don't think he really did anything special in it, to be honest, but I'll give him credit where credit is due. That's a pretty good movie starring him. Okay, Ben Stiller was able to win over my dad in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I think that was in 2013. And my dad doesn't care for Ben Stiller at all. So, therefore, he probably should have won an award that year for Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So I just really don't think that the cast in general did anything great, especially Jared Leto. I think they probably didn't get much to do anything with. They weren't given good direction. They certainly weren't given a good script. So just general lackluster everything, characters, writing, whatever from this movie. Also, the mid and post credits scenes, these scenes, and it's one after the other, and they're just connected. So it was even more dumb. First, you see the effects of, I guess, the end of No Way Home, spoiler alert, where Doctor Strange does the thing to make everybody forget in the MCU who Peter Parker is, and also send all of the extra dimensional Spider-Man characters back home. So the silhouettes of Kraven and Rhino and whoever else that we see in the sky, they stop coming over into the MCU and they just go home. There was no way home. Glad they found it. For whatever reason, and oh man, it kind of makes me mad. For whatever reason, we do not know why, but Vulture, played by Michael Keaton from Spider-Man Homecoming, he comes to the Sony universe, to the Venom universe. There's no explanation for this. At least at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, that came out several months ago now, before No Way Home, at least at the end of that, we see kind of a maybe bull explanation, but an explanation nonetheless of why Venom is included in Doctor Strange's spell. Okay, so the symbiotes share a collective knowledge, a collective sort of hive mind of history across the multiverse. So the Venom symbiote, we'll call him Venom for simplicity's sake, Venom recognizes Peter Parker, even having never met him and him being from a different universe. He recognizes Tom Holland's Peter Parker as just somebody important, potentially because another version of Venom in Spider-Man 3, 2007, fought and ended up dying as a result of the fight with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Maybe that's how it is. Maybe it's just, hey, they meet up and fight in a lot of universes, so he's a memorable guy across the multiverse, whatever. So that's why Venom gets to be brought over to the MCU as a result of people who know Peter's identity getting collectively brought over. Here in freaking Morbius, we have no earthly idea or otherworldly idea why Vulture, why Adrian Toomes, played by the great Michael Keaton, why he's coming over to the Sony universe. Why? Why would he do that? He should just be in the MCU, chilling in jail, forgetting that he knows Spider-Man's secret identity. That's all that should be happening. And yet he comes over for no apparent reason. So the question is, what are they planning? Because then he says, hey, you and I, Morbius, we should team up. And Morbius just naturally thinks that this is a good idea, having just met this man, having no clue anything about him. Very nice. I know what they're trying to do. Somebody at Sony is just really into the idea of doing a Sinister Six movie, dude. They've been trying to do it since 2014 is when I became aware that they were trying to do this. All right, so The Amazing Spider-Man 2 sets up the Sinister Six. You've got Harry Osborn, you've got allusions to Doc Ock, Vulture, the gang, right? And they were just really sold on doing a Sinister Six movie. I think that was supposed to come out in maybe 2016. They were really sold on doing this and then having a Spider-Man universe movie every year. And this is looking a lot like what we knew those were going to look like, because they were not concerned about quality of film with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And they definitely were not about to be concerned with quality or anything going into the Sinister Six and the rest of the spin-off movies, with a Spider-Man, an actual Spider-Man movie happening every 2 or 3 years or something. So it seems like, of course, we're headed back in that direction. Now, I would say the 2 Venom movies we've had so far, and I'm sure there's a third one on the way, they've been okay. Like, they're at least watchable, and I would say they're worth seeing once at the very least. All right? They're at least kind of funny. They're at least action. They at least have much more interesting fights than this movie, Morbius, does. The final battle between Michael Morbius and Milo, Matt Smith's character, is pretty dang stupid. Okay? It lasts like 30 seconds. I'm exaggerating. It's like 25 seconds. And basically, Matt Smith puts up a fight, and then Michael just hits his I win button, and it's kind of over. Like, he just throws some bats at him, holds him down, stabs him with the antidote thing to take away his powers and incidentally kill him, and that's really it. In a usual superhero movie, in a usual action movie, it would be a little bit more of a struggle than that, I think. But it just really seems like somebody didn't really care. Of course, who knows what got cut out of this movie? You can make or break a movie with editing. Certainly you can make a movie not good by editing things out of it. We had an example of that in 2016, and then when the Blu-ray came out, we learned that a missing half hour of the film gave us tons of context for the story. So this final battle, it lasts not very long at all, but the screen also got so dark on me to hide the CGI that I could barely tell what was going on. I wasn't in a particularly bright room setting when I watched the movie, but I needed it to be a lot darker than it was, I guess, if I was going to make out any detail during this uninteresting fight scene. Man, that's another thing. The action in this movie was just really plain. There's just a bunch of random brief slow motion effects thrown in to make you think it's cool, but it's just like somebody is saying, hey, you know what's cool? This and this. It was just a very visually uninteresting movie whenever there was action. Now, it did have some good bones. I think the character of Milo is compelling enough. He could have been made much more compelling with some better writing very easily. He's got a decent backstory. He's got a decent reason for why he's turning evil, why he's persisting, why he continues to do things that he should know are wrong. That all makes a good deal of sense to me. And Matt Smith does a decent job. He's scary enough. I think they could have turned it up some. Of course, maybe that's an issue with they didn't really know who they were making the movie for. The last point. So we're 3 movies deep into the Sony spin-offs now, since Venom and Venom 2 and now Morbius. And in all 3 movies, they're using the tried and true hero fights a villain with the exact same kind of powers as them. Now, of course, in Venom 2, they mitigate this because it's not just Cletus Cassidy that Venom and Eddie are up against. They're also up against his girlfriend, and they did a decent job of putting in some conflicts with the police and whatnot. In Morbius, the police stuff is kind of silly. It doesn't really work. Also, it's just a vampire against a vampire guy, and the good guy wins kind of just because. So we got the reuse of the villain has the same exact powers as the hero. They're just the equal and opposite version of them, which is fine. Like Marvel did it in Iron Man 1, The Incredible Hulk. And of course, The Incredible Hulk is kind of a weaker movie, but they both make a fair deal of sense. And then they did it a third time that I can think of off the top of my head in Ant-Man 2015 with Scott Lang having to fight Yellow Jacket. But of course, they made it really visually interesting because they got really small, and so that was pretty neat. And then Scott had to outsmart Yellow Jacket, right? Not that way in Morbius. It's there wasn't much skill involved. It was just kind of a I know something you don't know, and now we're done. In conclusion, I guess I could probably ramble on for a while longer, but I'll stop here. In conclusion, Morbius, as expected, is a film. It is one of the films ever made, of course, like the memes say. And is it worth watching? If Morbius is your favorite character, and I can't imagine that being the case for anybody with a brain and a beating heart, yeah, go ahead and watch the movie. It's nice sometimes to just see your favorite character in live action in some form other than a comic book, even if it's kind of bad. Like, we can all agree on that. Sometimes it's just fun to watch your dude, right? So if Morbius is your dude, totally worth watching. If Morbius is not your dude, I would say, nah. Thanks for stopping by for this oaf culture rant on Morbius. It's been great having you here. If you liked this video, feel free to like it or comment or subscribe or do whatever else. Of course, your viewership is quite enough for me. Thank you for being here, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.